Hello everybody, and welcome to Students for Political Engagement. Today we have an interview with Jyoti Oberoi, who is running for York Regional District School Board Trustees in Wards 1, 2, and 4. Good evening. Would you like to offer a short introduction of yourself and why you're running for York Regional District School Board Trustee?
Yeah, so I'm Jyoti Oberoi, and I'm a candidate for Public School Board Trustee for the City of Richmond Hill, Wards 1, 2, 4. A little bit about myself. It'll be hard to say a little bit. I'll try my best, but okay. So I hold a master's degree in science and have been an educator for over 25 years, working in Richmond Hill elementary and secondary school. I also have a degree in education. I have also worked with Ministry of Education to develop the Ontario Science and Health Curriculum and conducted board workshops to educators to implement the science curriculum. During July and August, I work at the reception center as a teacher assessor, where my role is to welcome and assess children who have recently arrived in the country as new immigrants. Educators such as myself test them in English and math, and then write a report to be sent to their schools so that their teachers have information on their background, their strengths and their needs. This helps them to develop a program based on their individual needs. As a matter of fact, I was still working on the assignment in August and had to give up the day I filed my nomination because for the public school trustee position, because as you know that working for York Region in any capacity is a conflict of interest. So I had to give up my job. I have two successful adult children who have gone through the public school system right here in the York Region in Richmond Hill. And I'm a proud resident of Richmond Hill for 28 years. Other than my 27 or 28 years of teaching experience in schools, I've had the privilege of serving on many committees, such as Social Justice and Equity Committee with my local teachers union for many years, and provincially on Anti-Racist Committee. I have been an equity designate for my school for several years. In other words, I'm huge on social justice and equity and have proactively worked towards understanding and addressing racism in my school and my community by actively participating and by being a part of many workshops and on anti-racism. For several years, I've given presentations to grade 7 and 8 students under a program called Together We Are Better. This program used to be held in a community center or sometimes in a bigger facility that accommodated a large number of grade 7 and 8 students, where they would have an opportunity to listen to distinguished speakers, and then they attended workshops presented by York Regional educators such as myself to learn how we are better when we are together. Unfortunately, for a few years now, and for obvious reasons, we do not have that program anymore. Ever since the pandemic, we have seen an increase in hate crimes, and we're seeing more of anti-Black sentiment and racism, anti-Asian sentiment, Islamophobia, and anti-Semitism. And I hope that we can bring back such wonderful programs back so kids will understand each other, value each other's culture, way of living, and learn to respect it. I'm quite involved in local community. So as Mahatma Gandhi said, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. I've always enjoyed volunteering and participating in charity work. I've organized a few cultural events for our Richmond Hill community with our late Mayor Barrow. My family supports many local charities with helping out in terms of food donations for the local Richmond Hill Food Bank since the onset of pandemic, and supporting our local hospitals such as Mackenzie and Hospital and Markham Stouffville hospitals with regular donations. I have volunteered to fundraise for Nanny Angel Network, which supports cancer patients. My family is engaged in politics. We exercise our right to vote at local, provincial, and federal level during elections. I'm a very active member of ATFO, or Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario, for a long time, working as a union steward for my school. Within my union, I have attended Leaders for Tomorrow program, an intensive year-long leadership development opportunity, which is designed to enhance leadership skills within an inclusive and anti-racist or anti-oppression framework. As a trustee, I'll ensure I advocate for all students and families, regardless of isms. It is so heartwarming to know that young people like yourselves are taking interest in politics. It is very important. That's why we start teaching it right from elementary school. And I'm hoping, Matthew and Jacqueline, that you remember your unit of citizenship from grade 5. So as a retired teacher, I believe our children deserve a strong and inclusive public education system. If elected, I will advocate for this. Quality education is a prerequisite to our children's self-esteem, their happy social life, and their successful adult life. I have the background to help deliver an education system that will ensure our students achieve their potential and become productive members of our society. I'm sorry, this was a rather long introduction, but you must appreciate it's coming from 27 years of work experience. Thank you.
Thank you for that answer. And as with any school board, the finances of YRDSB have been a very important part of its operation. What is your idea as to how the YRDSB budget should be crafted to ensure both financial stability while preserving the quality of education?
So first of all, let's see how we develop the budget. Let me a little bit, talk about that. So development of budget is an ongoing process which reflects decisions made throughout the year and includes both priorities and direction as established by the trustees' multi-year plan and director's action plan. Developing a balanced budget is a collaborative process that is undertaken in consultation with trustees, staff, system partners, etc. Over the next 4 years, the board will focus on the priorities of well-being and mental health, equity and inclusivity, collaborative relationships, and ethical leadership. So for the budget, first we need to see what is the cost of educating one student and what are the operating expenditures. What expenses are flexible or discretionary and what are fixed. We need to be very careful here because the cost per student is increasing every year. Total operating cost for educating one student was close to, I think, 12,000 or a little over 12,000 this year. And a little over, I think it's a little increase from 2021 when the cost was a little bit under $12,000. So we have to make sure the funding formula adequately supports the expense because the cost of living is increasing. And then we have renovation of schools, maintenance of the buildings, transportation, building of new schools. Therefore, we have to make sure that funding from the provincial government is also as per the rate of inflation. It needs to increase for sustainability. Otherwise, we cannot sustain the budget. Because if your funding is not able to catch up with the cost of living, doing business, then we can't have a balanced budget. As trustees, we need to wrestle back taxation powers, and that will allow our board better individualize schools based on their needs under the funding formula. Secondly, the use of grants. We have many grants available to use for student needs, so we can tap into that. And third, we need to take into account that there is always some balance or reserve every year so that if there's any situation where we have a sudden need for money, that we are able to draw it from that fund. Suppose you don't have any reserve funds and there is a change in the government and the new government doesn't support the same education funding, or they cut education funding, or a pandemic like we have right now, what are we going to do then? So that's why it is very important to have a balanced budget. So if that happens, that there is no reserve there, that the quality of education is going to be impacted. So in order for us to have a quality of education, the budget needs to be balanced. Now, the next thing is, what is quality of education? What does it mean? This means qualified, well-trained, and specialist teachers. It means we have robust professional training for them. It means we have 25 or so kids per class, because the minute you add a few more, then the quality of education is affected. You have to have ELL support for newcomers, special ed teachers who support kids who need help. So these and other parameters such as staff development, making schools safe for students, and well-being of our students, these are all going to define the quality of education, and these cannot be compromised. In other words, prioritizing saving money over quality of education is also not in the best interest of our community. So this is a bit of a balancing act, I would say. And the other thing is we need to constantly evaluate where money is going. And we need community involvement for that, so that there is a level of transparency. As a teacher, I have trained my students in financial literacy, and budgeting is also a part of that learning process. For me, I've always had a budget for my school supplies at least twice a year. As a housewife, I have to budget for my family, and there needs to be a balanced budget where there is some money put aside for rainy days. It'll be my job as a trustee to provide the necessary checks and balances. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that answer. And I think just as a point of clarification, you mentioned there that the board needs to take back taxing power. Are you stating that the school board by itself should have the power to make taxes?
No, I think what I mean is, let's have that locally, not provincially. Let's have some more authority over where our taxpayers' dollars are going. That's what I meant.
Oh, all right. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
So moving on to our next question. So the York Region District School Board, as well as other school boards in Ontario, have seen a shortage of teachers to staff classes. So what do you think the Board of Trustees and the YRDSB by extension could do to alleviate this problem?
So people need to realize that this problem was predicted. This was bound to happen under the present circumstances or since the pandemic. As a trustee, first I would look for an immediate solution to fix the problem. So that would be my short-term solution. We can set up some professional training programs for the new teachers or teacher candidates in the system so that they are ready when we need them. We can probably make use of our teachers who are trained in different parts of the world, who come here as new immigrants. What usually happens is that they struggle for years and years and still do not get a teaching license. So maybe we can set up a 3 months or 6 months professional development program that they can enroll in a welcome center or a reception center and help them out so that they're ready to support when needed. Generally speaking, let's use the expertise and the diverse range of specialties that immigrant workers, in this case, teachers, bring to this country. Let's value their qualifications and their contribution. Of course, we will do this without compromising the quality of education. The third is that you can have the retired teachers come back to teach in and fill in the staff absences as we had to do it this year. in the last last 2 or 3 years. Now, let's go to the root cause of the problem. I'm asking, why is there a shortage of teachers? Are we compensating them in a sustainable way? Are the conditions for their work safe, or they feel overwhelmed, tired, or drained? Do they feel supported? Do they have the necessary ESL, spec ed support? Or do they have professional training programs to help them deliver the new and ever-changing curriculum? We know they have to be able to love their work. The question is, are we creating those conditions for them, which is making them leave the profession? If that's the case, then we need to fix this, and we have to present a different voice for a better choice. So, in terms of long-term solution, the issue is not about hiring more teachers. The true issue is how to educate broken families and children. We need to figure out how to use our system of clinicians, social workers, psychotherapists, guidance counselors better, so that teachers do not feel overwhelmed. Thank you.
Thank you for that answer. And our next question has to do with diversity. So Richmond Hill is a fairly diverse city, which is reflected within our schools. In particular, there are many immigrants who attend our schools. What will you do as a YRDSB trustee to promote diversity within our schools and make sure all those who attend our school feel welcome and included?
It's a fantastic question. I'm huge on that. First of all, we need to build understanding of anti-oppression, culturally relevant and responsive pedagogy, and the ongoing impact of colonialism. As educators, we want our students to be excited to learn and engage in the work, but sometimes students do not see them reflected in the curriculum. They don't see school as related to who they are in the world they inhabit. So to make school diverse and to make school more relevant, we need to understand culturally responsible teaching strategies and make sure our school community, including our educators, are on board with this pedagogy. A key element of this pedagogy is a learning environment that values the experiences and strengths of a diverse student body to make school more relevant by making use of their lived experiences, knowledge from students' cultural backgrounds, and incorporating that into instructional strategies and curricula in order to improve educational outcomes. So that should be the goal of our board. This model is not focusing on deficit, rather on the assets the kids bring with them, the experiences they bring with them to the classroom. Students in this model or this pedagogy are encouraged to use familiar ways of speaking, thinking, knowing, and analyzing in order to learn new concepts and ideas. Most important here is to create a conducive learning environment, offering relevant and important content and using culturally responsive teaching practices in our pedagogy. If we do that, we will help students make connections between their lives in the world and their lives at school. And that will increase engagement and improve outcomes. Culturally responsible teaching depends on a learning environment that affirms our students and helps them feel included, validated, valued, and safe. Now, how do we do it? First, we have to have a fundamental belief that all students can learn. Next, we need to create a wide range of curricular content to make sure that students have access to characters that look like them and the settings that look like their communities. This is very important. Then, number 3 is dynamic instruction. We all understand that students learn in a multitude of ways, so teaching strategies should be dynamic and diverse. Students should have whole group discussions, small group activities that requires them to share, discuss, disagree, agree, think individually and collectively. The last point that I'm making is community involvement. Parents, caregivers, grandparents, and community partners should be asked to share stories, give a historical overview of the community, and offer supports and provide cultural bridges between the larger community and the school community. Now, to support the new immigrants and their family, we can have like chai and chat. That means tea and chat programs where the community members can come to school and mingle with staff members or the administrative staff informally. Then we can have probably ESL classes in school setting, like in the library for parents. This can be done on school days or after school with supports for better integration of mothers. Use what we have to gain what we need. Parents who are better integrated are better able to support their child's educational process. That's my philosophy. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that answer. And moving on to our next question. So as Richmond Hill and York Region's population continues to grow, more students are entering our schools. So what would you do as a York Region District School Board trustee to continue to maintain the same quality of education for all students in the York Region District School Board as this goes on?
Good question. That is a very relevant question, actually, because this we see happening. So first of all, we need to ensure that quality of education is not compromised for all students. So for that, we have to push for more government funding so that there is an adequate educator to student ratio. We cannot let that alter. Also, we need to make sure we have specialized teachers to teach specialty subjects and providing robust professional development to our teachers so that they can deliver the best possible programs. Incorporating technology, encouraging school boards to regularly share planning information with community partners for their input, and then share board facilities. What will happen is this will reduce facility operating costs, improve services and supports for students, and strengthen community relationships. This will also maximize the use of public infrastructure and provide foundation for improved service delivery for communities. Some of the points that I have mentioned are based on cost recovery approach. In other words, the board should not assume additional cost to support facility partnerships. Facilities will be managed on a cost to recovery basis, and fees charged to partners would be designed to cover operation and capital costs. In this way, partners will be responsible for renovation to make the space suitable for their use. If you do all that, we can have the same quality education without incurring too many additional costs. This way, we can continue to have quality education and still be able to support more students coming into our schools. Thank you.
Thank you for that answer. And an important job of the Board of Trustees is to craft policies that govern all YRDSB schools.
Mhm.
How do you think this process should be conducted? And are there any policies you would consider updating or adding as a trustee?
Okay, so very good question. Yes, every York Region District Board policy and procedure, it impacts students, parents, and staff. The feedback from staff and community partners, including parents, guardians, is an important part of the review process. Trustees provide critical local school input. Now, there's a health and safety policy and procedure, which needs our commitment to maintaining safe and healthy working environments. According to me, this policy needs to be reviewed and updated very regularly to establish the well-being of its employees through the promotion of health and safety in the workplace and active participation of all employees in the prevention of accidents. By constantly reviewing and updating, you can find out whether your system is effective in managing risks and protecting people. Since pandemic, we've had to update this policy several times, and I think we must continue to do so. The second policy that I would like to update is community involvement. The process should be conducted in a way that involves all stakeholders, including students such as yourselves. Many times, the most important and impactful policies that have an influence over the life trajectory of students do not involve students. They never have any say in it, and the same thing for their families. So communities should have more opportunities to change and impact policies. And when it comes to consultation, community consultation should occur in the community rather than just sending them things by email and posting it to the website. It should happen in the community. That's what my thought process is.
All right, thank you very much for that answer. And going on to our final question. So you've talked a lot about the ideas you have for the board if you were elected. So if you were elected, what would be the first one of your ideas you would try and get implemented on the Board of Trustees?
I have a couple things actually as my first priority, if I can say that. First, I would like to listen and learn as much as possible. I will be reviewing all the policies, procedures, and issues that are involved in supporting my constituents so that I can make the best and most informed decisions and choices impacting students and their education. As a trustee, I want to be knowledgeable and aware of the issues, so I'll spend my first few months learning from students, community, and staff while understanding how decision-making and other processes work. Along with that, my priority will be to get to work on the issues that are most important in improving students and their education. Some examples are fostering equity, diversity, inclusion, and well-being of students, and looking at how trustees can improve on the way decisions are made. The other important policy priority would be to make sure we help students recover from pandemic disruptions. They must continue to learn, and we must focus on raising the achievement of students who are underserved and underperforming. And therefore, promoting mental wellness in the classroom is very important for me. We need to have educators check in with the students every day and then dive into a short lesson on mindfulness and other social emotional skills. When we focus on raising the achievement and well-being of students who are underserved and underperforming, all students will benefit. So these are some of my first priorities going into as a trustee. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And that concludes our interview. So thank you very much for joining us today.
My pleasure. I just want to say towards the end, thank you to both of you, Jacqueline and Matthew, for this opportunity where we could engage in a political discussion. I'm so glad that there are programs in place now, even in elementary school, that make students aware of what's going on in their country at federal level, provincial level, and municipal level. And as a matter of fact, Matthew and Jacqueline, next week, I'm invited to speak with grade 5 students at a school, local school, about the duties, the roles, the responsibilities of a trustee. And they will probably have the same kind of format like yourself, question and answer session like we had today. I've really enjoyed myself today, and I'm looking forward to engaging in a political discussion with the elementary schools and kids next week. Please remember, electing progressive school board trustees is one of the most significant ways to support and defend our public education system. This year, especially, we'll bargain, lobby, and campaign to push the government to make the necessary investments to lower class sizes, support the learning needs of all students, eliminate classroom violence, ensure safe and healthy schools. Therefore, so important to engage in such kind of relevant conversations. You can make the right choices and get the right people to work and to advocate for you. That's what I think. So I urge everyone to look at the qualifications and experiences of all your candidates so as to make a well-informed and educated decision. Thanks again for having me.
All right, yes, thank you again for joining us today, and have a great evening.
You too. Have